Well, if you're anything like me, I know you probably love a clean interior, a dashboard without dust on it, a screen without smudges and fingerprints everywhere, and a perfectly clean steering wheel. There's always one area in interiors that I'm never impressed by, and that is the rubber floor liners. Even after cleaning them, they might look pretty dull, might just not look all that great, maybe look like an undressed tire. And there's quite a few products out there that claim to be the best protectant for this to restore them back to new. One of them, a detailer's favorite, Koch-Chemie Guf. Many people swear by. I personally don't love this product. This product for me still has some slickness to it, probably a 2 out of 10 in terms of slickness, and that is not something I'm willing to put in my customers' vehicles. Now, based on the comment section from you guys, a lot of you actually use this product 1-to-1. So we're actually going to test out that dilution today, test it at its full strength, compare the differences there. And then another recommendation from you guys is Adam's Rubber Mat and Liner Protectant. And you say you actually prefer this over Koch-Chemie Guf. So today we're going to try it out. Welcome back to the channel. Let's jump into it. Well guys, thank you all for being here today. Really anxious to dive into this. Definitely interested in checking out this Adams product for your floor liners and also diluting down Koch-Chemie Guf to hopefully find something that I might fall in love with. Now again, one of the big things for me with floor liners here is this is a fully cleaned floor liner. So I went through, cleaned this with a tire and rubber cleaner, dried it off, and this is how it looks. Now, one of the big things here is you never want to make any of this surface slick whatsoever, especially using something like a vinyl rubber trim product and dressing the actual mat here. That can get on your shoes, can get on the brake pedal, can cause serious issues, can cause accidents. And it's not something that is necessarily very fun to deal with. So a lot of the times I just leave the mats like this. And like I said, I know a lot of people swear by Koch-Chemie Guf here. It is just not there for me. Again, so many people tell you this is completely anti-slip, and I completely and absolutely disagree. Again, it's not unbelievably slick, but it is still there, and that's not something I like. I actually put this on my dad's floor liners just a little while back, and he goes, "What the hell did you do to my floor mats?" And I told him, "Well, use Koch-Chemie Guf." He goes, "Please never use that on my car again." So fortunately, my family gets to have stuff that I test on it. So that was his feelings on it, and after doing it on one of my vehicles as well, that was kind of my feelings. Now, I've said this in multiple videos, and some of you have said, "Hey Colton, we really recommend diluting this down and actually using it 1-to-1. It seems to knock down that little bit of slip that is still left over." So we'll be trying that here today. Now, this is a very simple product to use. After you actually clean up your mats, you're going to spray this on the surface, or you can actually apply it to an applicator and scrub it into the surface. You'll let it kind of soak in there. You can definitely go back through, wipe up any kind of high spots there. It's pretty much good to go after that. One of the big things with this product that a lot of people don't love is actually the price of it. And it retails for $32.99 for a 1-liter bottle. Now, there have been some online that have actually made their own. I don't know if it actually works any better or what. They say it's pretty basic household chemicals. Koch-Chemie is a scammer for charging that much. Whatever. At the end of the day, if people like this, you should be able to use it. Now, Adam's over here, a pretty interesting product that I'm anxious to try out because the application is very different than Koch-Chemie Guf. Now, this is a product you can actually use wet or dry, which I do think is very intriguing, because one of the things that always drives me nuts when cleaning mats is actually drying them. You either are getting water all over the surface of the face or on the backside, or you set them down on the concrete to let them dry in the sunshine. You pick up the mat again, there's all sorts of little rocks and debris on the backside of the mat. It just gets very annoying to deal with. So by this product being, while it's still wet, being able to spray it on there or do it when it's actually dry, that seems pretty intriguing. Now, this product is still actually quite expensive. So retail price on the 16.9 ounce bottle here is $16.99. So it's actually technically more expensive than Koch-Chemie Guf here. Now, if you know anything about Adams, they do a sale pretty much every other day. So never pay full retail price for their products, because tomorrow they're going to have a new sale and it's going to be even cheaper than that. So do understand, yeah, you can get some deals on Adams stuff. Now, the thing that I'm really intrigued about this is how it actually applies other than wet and dry. You leave this for 3 to 5 minutes. They say it's going to turn kind of this ghosty white, almost type of milky. It's going to soak into the pores of the mats, and then you can go back over it if there's anything that is pooled up on there. Wipe it down and it goes back in your car. And they say you can do this pretty much every single time you wash your mats. So that's pretty intriguing. So I think what we're going to do here, I'm going to show you how I go through and clean mats, and then we're going to try these out. So I'll show you Koch-Chemie Guf at full strength and give you feelings on it at 1-to-1. We're going to use this wet, we're going to use this dry, and compare the two. All right, now cleaning your mats is a very important part of the step. We want to ensure that we're getting all the dirt and grime off of there, so that any of these protectants on there have a good place to lock into the surface. So a couple of different things you can use here. Number one, Koch-Chemie Green Star. This is an alkaline all-purpose cleaner. Any all-purpose cleaner is going to work fine. What I also have found works very, very well is something like Armor Detail Supply's tire cleaner. And you can see right on the label there, it's made for cleaning rubber as well as plastic, and works fantastic on mats as well, being that these are rubber. Now, I like to use a pressure washer with this. You can clearly use a hose, whatever you see fit. Now, personally, I like to rinse down the mats first before spraying either of these on there. Yes, it dilutes it down a little bit, but helps unclog and get most of that dirt and grime off before we get in there. Now, I also like to agitate it. So these are two different brushes from the Detail Factory. Now, this larger brush here with the handle is actually for fender liners. So it's a little bit softer. These are going to work probably best on something like WeatherTech mats. They're a little bit harder. Softer rubber ones like this, I actually find these tire and rubber brushes from Detail Factory work slightly better, but either one totally fine, just depends on what you actually like here. So what we're going to start off with is we're going to rinse this down. Then we're going to come in here with our tire and rubber cleaner. Now I'm using this at 2-to-1 or 1-to-2, which is what they recommend for pretty heavy cleaning here. 1-to-1 is extreme, 4-to-1 is more maintenance. So somewhere right in the middle there, we want to get a little bit of clean there. So I've got either one of these brushes here. Let's just start off with this, just because I am filming this sitting down here. And we're just going to come in and scrub the mats down. Now, of course, want to work in the direction of all of these little creases here. Instead of trying to go across here, you're going to leave a lot of dirt and grime in there. Make sure we get all to the edges. Now, again, if you need a little bit deeper scrub, spray this directly onto here. Cool, and we should be good to go there. So now we can just rinse it. All right, so from here, what I like to do, quickly shake off the mat. Then you have a couple options. Now, option number one, you can leave these out to dry in the sun. I don't necessarily recommend that. You could leave some mineral deposits behind. I personally like to use something like a blow car dryer to dry these. You can also use a microfiber towel. Now, again, the interesting thing about the Adams rubber mat and liner protectant is you can actually spray that on a wet surface, leave it to dry. Now, I'm not sure how that's going to go here. We'll actually try one of those, but pretty darn interesting. So I'll get the rest of the mats cleaned up here. Then we can do some playing around with how Guf and the Adams rubber mat and liner protectant actually works out. Okay, so I've got this diluted down 1-to-1 now. So I'm going to split the mat, and I just want to see the difference in how it actually feels, how it looks, if this actually works out well. Also, did not notice or know ever that Guf was actually kind of a pale blue. So how I'm going to apply this, instead of just spraying it absolutely everywhere and kind of cross-contaminating these two sections, we're going to use an applicator. Now, normally you would directly spray this or drip it into your actual applicator here. Now you can do a little mix of both if you have, a certain area like this, but I just want to see how this actually looks and works here. Now, first things first, I really like how Guf actually looks. There is no doubt about that. The mat looks way better than actually having a super dry mat that's just not that impressive whatsoever. So I can also just kind of mess this on here, get these into these more nooks and crannies here, and then start to kind of work it in a little. All right, what's interesting after applying this, now it's not perfectly all the way in here. I am seeing quite a bit of this that almost looks like it might be rejecting it a little bit. Maybe it's just not fully worked into the surface. That's pretty interesting. We'll play around with that. I want to let it kind of cure up. So up here, fresh applicator, we're going to use straight Guf. I'm just going to kind of mist this in here, make my life a little easier. All right, so first things first, I personally think, yeah, I do like the look of the regular Guf here. It does seem to work in quite a bit easier. Still noticing some of this. Now, some of these areas I didn't get quite worked in, of course, but what do you think? Is there any real difference there? See, to me, this feels slick. I just throwing my glove over this, this has a slick texture to it, and that's not what I like. Now, I understand it's not fully in the mat here, but again, that's just what I feel on my feet. So let's pop this off, let's let this dry, and not a really amazing tape line. You can kind of see it, but not that crazy on there. Definitely deepened it, richened it. It looks a lot more uniform than before. I guess on camera you can really pick that up. The angle that I was at wasn't so much, but pretty interesting. Let's let this sit for a little bit. Now time to test out Adam's rubber mat and liner protectant. So per the directions here, you're gonna, of course, spray on a clean, wet or dry all-weather mat, and you're gonna do it liberally so it covers it. 3 to 5 minutes for it to soak into the surface. Appearance will start looking kind of milky and will dry and cure invisible. That's a lot of ands in that sentence, no? Maybe it needs some commas, I don't know. Once sufficiently penetrated, wipe down and level. Ooh, looks good there. Okay, so pretty straightforward. Never use this product. So I'm gonna try this on the wet mat first. So this is, especially a large mat like this is something I really like. Also, 10 out of 10 on the smell over Koch-Chemie Guf. I have no idea if this is too much. I just went off the instructions. We're gonna come here and do the same thing on the dry version. Now we had a little water there. Come across this side. Then we're gonna sit and wait for 3 to 5 minutes. Once we do that time, we're gonna come back in, wipe it down with microfiber towel where it's been pooled, and we should be good to go. So cross over the 5-minute mark here. You'll notice it's still kind of milky. What's really interesting here is it says, where's it at? Start looking milky and will dry and cure invisible and colorless. So could be that it's very hot and humid in here right now. I'm definitely starting to see this mat do it more than over here, but that makes me think a little bit about how that wet application is, that's probably going to take a little bit longer to dry. Makes sense, of course, but I don't know if I over applied this. I mean, it says spray it quite liberally on here, so right up top, sufficiently cover. Just kind of using it how it should. So I'm gonna let this sit for a little bit longer. I'm gonna get that last mat cleaned up. So there's your before and after with Koch-Chemie Guf. So yeah, the mat looks really, really nice. Again, still that slickness I'm worried about. All right, so we are past 9 minutes now. So I'm gonna come in here and just work this in. Hopefully help this a little. I think this will kind of even it out a little bit more as well. So the look on the mat is really, really nice and restored. Should also note, by the way, this is going to look very different than on something like a harder WeatherTech floor mat, something like that. Those mats are notoriously a little bit on the hard side. And yeah, so I gotta say, man, this is looking really, really nice. So really pretty darn pleased with that. Feels kind of slick to me. Can definitely feel it's on there. So we'll let this dry out for a little bit more and give some final thoughts. You guys can see on that side, I have knocked this down. Really, really nice looking mat, I gotta say, overall. Really, really dig the looks of this. It actually picks up pretty easily over here. So we're just gonna work this in with a towel. I think that would probably be a little bit beneficial there to do for you guys instead of just letting this fully dry. But man, that's feeling pretty darn nice. Now I also like to flip this over, what I did there, just kind of pick up anything else in there. Definitely in areas like that, it's going to take a little bit longer to cure up. But man, this mat is probably the hardest worn mat in this entire car, because this is actually where the two golden retrievers get in and out. So there's nail marks all over this. There's dirt, there's dust, there's whatever the dogs have on their paws. So gotta say, overall, pretty darn impressed with that. All right, guys. Well, since that last clip, it has been about 9.5 or so hours since I actually put Koch-Chemie Guf on the mat up here, Adams rubber mat and liner protectant on these three right here. I wanted to let these cure up before I got a good feel of what these are actually like, and I'm very curious to see the slickness differences between them. Now, it's very hard to pick up on camera, this specific angle, the lighting, all of that fun stuff. What I can personally tell you is I prefer the look of the Adams Protectant more than Koch-Chemie Guf. It is a little bit deeper, it's a little bit richer, and it has more of a satin sheen versus a matte sheen over here. So, pretty darn interesting there. Now, the big question I have, even though I prefer this, is it still slick? Now, the big question I have here is Koch-Chemie Guf at 1:1 enough for me to actually use? I don't know. Let's check this out. So I'm just going to take my bare hand here. I just hate it. And I can literally feel it on my hands. I absolutely hate Koch-Chemie Guf. It is just not a product for me. Now, I can tell you up here, yeah, it's even slicker for sure. Wow, a lot gets on your hands there. Not a fan of that. So I guess the big question here is, how does this feel underneath the foot? Yeah, it's slick as can be. I absolutely hate that. I don't know how this is marketed as a non-slip protectant. It literally has slickness on it. That is insane. I can literally feel it on my foot transferring onto the floor now. So yes, that is gonna get on your brake pedal. I absolutely hate that. Also, adding water into that situation, no go. All right, so I've wiped my hand off with the towel. I've wiped my shoes off with the towel as well to get this crap off of my hands and feet here. Let's check this out. Oh my God, 10 times different. 10 times different from the Adams. Honestly, doesn't really pick up anything on your actual fingers. I'm a big fan of that. Again, I think this looks better. Now, the thing you'll see here, we do still have quite deep scratches from all the dog's nails and stuff like that. That's just the reality with floor mats. This is the big question. Oh my God. Look at that. I am literally pushing down on this and my foot is barely going over that. This is 1,000 times better than Koch-Chemie Guf. I am actually really impressed with this. That is awesome. Okay, well, I think you guys know we've got a winner here. I really, really like this. And this would be something, yeah, I would actually use in customer vehicles. I still want to do a little bit more playing with it to figure out which I prefer, the wet method or the dry method. But I do like that you can do both. And looking through these, I don't see a huge difference. The wet method to me seems like it might knock the shine down a little bit because you are diluting it with water. I can't necessarily tell you a huge difference. This mat looks cleaner overall because this is in the third row of our EV9, where this mat gets destroyed because it's in the rear seat. The boys are always over it. And this one, of course, the driver's side, where you can see where our heels are at. So I think this, to me, completely clear winner. Not even close. Now, the only negative I think with the Adams is it is even more expensive than Koch-Chemie Guf. But like I said, Adams, literally every other day, you can get a sale on their products. And the other interesting note here, look how little I use to do 3 mats here. Guys, this to me is a real winner. This is easily the best thing I've ever used on rubber mats like this. And do understand the difference between mats. If you have WeatherTech liners that are a little bit on the harder side, Koch-Chemie Guf going to be even more slick. Maybe I need to try this on a set of those to see what it feels like before I 100% get my conclusion. But rubber mats like this, I am really, really impressed by. So thank you guys all for the suggestion of this. Unfortunately, can't thank you for the 1:1 dilution of Guf. I think that stuff's gonna go in the trash, and this is gonna replace it. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you in another one soon. Bye-bye.